In this video, I'm going to show you guys why working hard is a hoax and how to build a one-person business by creating leverage and doing things the right way in terms of priorities. So we're going to start just by answering some questions here. So the first question I got is why are the hardest working coaches usually paid the least? And a story that comes to mind is when we were at Vid Summit a couple years ago. If you don't know, Vid Summit is a giant marketing conference. And the celebrity in the room was this girl who had like 500 million, maybe a billion views on her shorts. She was a massive celebrity and she was broke. And the whole thing was that she was the hardest working person in the room for creating these shorts, but she wasn't using her creativity to create leverage. And as a one-person business or somebody who's operating as a one-person operator, you need to be creating leverage with your effort. Like leverage is the name of the game if you're running a one-person business. And so a lot of the coaches are working really hard, but they're doing the wrong things. They're not doing things that create leverage for them and for their business. And you don't want to be the celebrity at Vid Summit who's getting a pat on the back because they work really hard. You want to be the person who has a big bank account and a lot of time on their hands because they built their business the right way. If hustle worked, why are you still doing everything yourself? And I actually don't love this frame because a lot of the coaches and consultants are, outsource everything, get things off your hands, get more time. And what I've found is a better approach for coaches and experts who don't want to be building a business and managing people is to build a business that they can run and they can operate totally by themselves. And it's a lot easier to do now when you leverage AI and you leverage different softwares that can automate effort for you, that can create more leverage for you. And an example of that, there's a guy named Nick who runs an AI school community, and it's a one-person business operating on 95% profit margin. And he did the math, and he was making around $7,000 an hour working on treating the people that are in the business and creating content. And so I think he did three or 400,000 in a month, but he did it because he was working on the right things, creating leverage for the business. Leverage is gonna, take a little bit more work to get set up, but it's gonna pay dividends off down the road. And so you want to be, I think right now the opportunity is massive amounts of money for these one-person businesses who understand how to create leverage, but they are putting all their effort into creating leverage for their business instead of creating content or creating these things that don't provide leverage long term. High level clients don't hire coaches that are tired. And so one of my friends, we'll call him George for this, is a real estate coach and he's, has a high ticket offer. And I asked him for some help with real estate. And he said, yeah, go ahead and, my fee is, $2,000 or $5,000. I don't remember what it was. But I remember looking at him and just thinking that he looked tired. And this was a intensive project. It was going to require a lot of focus, energy, and effort. And I was like, I'm not going to hire him. And, we ended the call cordially, of course, but high level clients aren't going to hire you if you look tired, and you're going to look tired if you're creating content all the time, if you are tired. But also if your business is run in a way where you're busy and you're exhausted all the time, it's gonna hurt your authority. You're gonna get less clients because people don't want to hire somebody to fix their business if you look like you're exhausted or if you're tired. So get some sleep, and that'll actually help you close just by looking like you have more energy. People will believe that you can help them more. If your business stops when you stop, you don't own a business. Uh, yes. So if your business stops when you stop, you don't own a business. One of my good friends, we'll call him John in this. He was a great content creator, similar to the girl at VidSummit, but he had probably a billion views on YouTube, teaching what his art was. And because most of the revenue was coming from shorts, if you don't know anything about shorts, shorts have a short shelf life. So you might make some money for them some month, 1 month, but they're not going to make you a bunch of money in the future. And so his game was creating these shorts, but he didn't have a way to turn those shorts into leverage that would help him grow his business long term. So he had to be working all the time. He had to be creating these shorts, and these weren't simple shorts to create. These were complicated, time intensive, energy intensive shorts. And as soon as he stopped, he would stop making money. And if you're designing your business, you want to design it in a way where when you do stop, you still have that engine going. You still have leads coming in, you still have money being made, maybe you have recurring revenue. There's a bunch of different ways to structure it, especially if you're a single one-person business. But as you think about designing your one-person business or becoming a one-person operator, the design needs to be right so that when you do step away, your bank account is still going in the right direction, right? So hard work is impressive. Hard work is impressive for your peers, but not your buyers. So we'll call him my friend Matt. Had a huge has a huge YouTube following, and he gets tons of views. And the same deal. We went to a different video marketing conference, and he had done just tons of podcasts. I don't remember the number, but it was a crazy amount of podcasts. And when you do a podcast, you have to go find the person who's going to be the guest. You have to coordinate a time to work with them. You have to show up. You have to film. You have to upload it. Each podcast is actually a lot of work. And even if you have a team, there's still coordination on making sure the podcast is executed at a high level, and then you got to manage your team. And so, but he was creating all these podcasts over and over again. And it was really impressive to people who wanted a podcast. So people would say, it's so impressive how much work you've done. The team that you've built is amazing. And it was really impressive to those people who were content creators, but he couldn't sell his core service. He was a health coach, and he had the hardest time getting more clients to pay him money. So hard work is really impressive to the peers, the people that are in your industry that are doing the same thing, but your buyers don't care about that. Your buyers want belief, they want belief in the outcome, they want authority, they want to buy from somebody who's in a position of authority. And because he was working so hard, and we'll talk about this in a second, but the harder you work on social media publicly, it actually degrades your authority. So if you're putting out posts 3, 4, 5 times a day and you're putting out a bunch of effort to them, your authority is going down. We call it the Caesar rule inside our business. So the Caesar rule is that for my wife, Sarah Beth Yoga, she's Caesar, right? If Caesar shows up too often, then he appears to be a common man, right? And then Rome, the people won't worship him the way that they should. And if he doesn't show up frequently enough, then they forget about him, right? So there's the Caesar rule is this thing where you show up just enough so people are excited to see you, but they're not bored of seeing you. And that was one of the violations that Matt made with trying to close clients. He had shown up too much, and his authority was sort of really low because he was always putting out content. And then that just makes him look like a person of lower status. Effort feels noble, but when you realize it does not scale. So when you're getting started, effort is a really good thing. You want to be putting in, tons of effort to get the foundation laid, but all of that effort needs to go towards building leverage, things that will help you long term in the future. If it's going towards things that are we use the analogy of a match. Like a Facebook post is like a match. You light a match, the flame goes up, flame goes away. You have to light another match if you're in the dark. You don't want to be doing things that are matches. You want to be doing things that are evergreen, eternal flames for your business. And so a lot of times when you get started, effort feels noble. And in my wife's case, for Sarah Beth Yoga, she would get tremendous amounts of guilt when she wasn't working. So she would find things to work on. And she would always joke about, she would dig a hole, and then I would come along and say like, "Hey, what are you digging for?" And so it's about placing your effort in a way that's going to be high leverage and being okay with not putting an effort. If you're trying to build a business that is a lifestyle business that gives you cash flow, that frees you up to do what you really love, you can't be feeling guilty when you're not working. And so you want to be working on really high leverage opportunities, and you want to enjoy the rest of your life. And so don't pat yourself on the back because you're working hard. Make sure you're working on the right things that provide leverage for you and for your business. So number 7, authority doesn't look busy, it looks intentional. And so one of the biggest mistakes a lot of internet marketers make and people who are building these coaching businesses, and this is one that I made for years, is I didn't account for authority, right? I just thought content. If I get out there enough, I get enough views, then the authority will come from the content. But authority, that's not what authority does. Authority does not look busy. It always looks intentional. And I hired a mentor years ago, a guy named Kevin Nations, who just embodied this whole thing. He was always very calm. He was always patient. He would disappear off the internet for 6 months, then he'd come back and he'd make these really good offers. And he had massive authority. And then when he came back to the internet and made an offer, his offer at the time was like 2,500 a month for his coaching, and there was no sales page, there was no email list, there was no. He creates basically no content. All the stuff he does is through Facebook. zero ads, and all that stuff keeps his authority really high. People think that you have more authority if you're running ads and you're on Facebook and you're on LinkedIn and you're on TikTok, but that actually makes your authority less. It increases your reach. So there's always this trade-off between building authority and building reach, but most internet marketers are just on the building reach point, and then they can have all the reach in the world, but they have zero authority. So you can't sell. You especially can't sell high ticket items because you don't have authority. You need authority in order to sell high ticket items. Last one, if hustle created leverage, you'd have it by now. And so most common mistake most people have is they work really hard and they don't work on the right things. And so when we started Sarah Beth Yoga and we read 4 Hour Work Week, our entire structure for our business, our entire mindset was around how do we create what we call a muse. So how do we create a business that generates enough cash flow to hit our cash flow needs and frees us up to do what we really love? And when we started working on that model, we actually didn't know what we really love to do. A lot of people will say, I want to go travel. I love that. We didn't know, but we knew that until we had enough money to free ourselves up to do what we really loved, we wouldn't be able to find out, right? Because we'd be working 9 to 5s or we'd have these other jobs. And so hustle is not enough, right? The whole game is allocating focus. So you can only focus on certain things. And the things that you should focus on are the highest leverage activities for your business for now and for in the future. And then if you do that over a long enough time, then you'll have the leverage that creates the revenue that frees you up to do what you really love. And so hustle is this lie that people tell you all the time. You just need to work harder. And especially with the internet, you can always do more, and more is not better. It's just more. So if you want to learn to do the right things, I have my Skool operator community. So there's a link below this video. It's for solo entrepreneurs or really small businesses, 2 to 3 people that want to build authority and build a business with a one-person operating team and free themselves up to do what they really love. So link below or in the comments if you want. And I hope this is helpful. Have a good day.